The conference room at Halcyon Labs in Vancouver felt tighter than usual that Thursday morning. Maybe it was the tension vibrating off the walls, or maybe it was the sheer arrogance strutting across the head of the table. I sat quietly in my chair, taking it all in, waiting for the storm I'd seen coming. My younger brother Nathaniel was in full performance mode. Tailored suit, gleaming smile, and a voice that practically dripped with entitlement. He even had the nerve to bring back up 2 corporate lawyers from Fenway and Price, and our mother, who beamed like he'd just cured cancer instead of plotting a corporate ambush. "Delia," he said, all syrup and smugness. "Thanks for pulling everyone together so quickly." I nodded slightly, noting the puzzled glances from my board members. These were people who stood by me 6 years ago when Halcyon was a one-woman dream in a borrowed university lab. Now, we were one trial away from transforming immunotherapy delivery, and Nathaniel thought he could walk in and take it. "As some of you may know," he began, pacing like a TED Talk knockoff, "Novawell Holdings is expanding its biotech portfolio. What you don't know is, I've just been appointed their head of strategic acquisitions." My jaw tightened. So this was it. "I've thoroughly reviewed Halcyon's financials," he continued, snapping his fingers so one of his lawyers could pass around glossy folders. "And while the science is promising, the operation lacks scale. Novawell can provide the capital and structure you desperately need." Dr. Irene Coe, my lead research partner, raised an eyebrow. "We're weeks from beginning phase 1 clinical trials." Nathaniel shrugged. "Even so, let's be honest, Delia's little science fair needs adult management now." I said nothing. I'd heard it all before. When I chose biochemistry over corporate finance. When I spent my inheritance on high-risk clinical testing instead of condos in. When I missed his engagement party to finalize our first peer-reviewed submission. "The deal's generous," he added. "Novawell will retain all current staff and absorb your IP. Delia will retain a consulting title with flexible hours." "Of course," I murmured. He grinned. "Congratulations, sis, your little company is mine now." His lawyer stepped forward, opening a thick leather folder with a rehearsed flourish. Then came the silence, not just from the room, but from the lawyer. This is irregular," the man muttered, flipping again. "Delia retained personal patent control over all proprietary delivery mechanisms." Nathaniel's smile cracked. I leaned forward. "You should have checked who actually owned the science before you tried to sell it." Nathaniel's confident grin cracked. "There must be some mistake," he muttered, glancing sharply at his lawyer. "Is there?" I asked, my voice steady as I spoke for the first time in the meeting. His attorney flipped through the folders, eyes darting back and forth. These patents. They're all registered to me," I finished for him. "Delia Sorensen, personally. Not to Halcyon Labs, to me." The room erupted into hushed whispers. Board members looked at each other, eyebrows raised, some suppressing smirks. Nathaniel's face flushed crimson. "That's not possible," he snapped. "The company licenses the patents from me," I said calmly, folding my hands in front of me. "It's a detail you might have noticed if you'd done actual due diligence, instead of assuming your little sister was too naive to protect herself." I rose to my feet, straightening the sleek black dress I'd worn with quiet purpose. "Every breakthrough, every innovation, every molecular delivery method that makes our therapy platform revolutionary, I own them personally." I took a breath. "The licensing agreement was filed with the Canadian Intellectual Property Office 3 years ago." Nathaniel turned to our mother, suddenly rattled. "Did you know about this?" She looked down at the table, her voice barely audible. I assumed you checked. You said you reviewed everything." "Oh, he reviewed what he wanted to see," I said, tapping my tablet screen, the documents illuminating in front of me. "Just like always. While you two were busy underestimating me, I was building safeguards." I turned to the board, their attention locked on me now. "Given this attempted hostile acquisition, I move to suspend this meeting. We'll reconvene after our legal team evaluates Mr. Sorensen's proposal." Several members were already standing, nodding briskly, gathering their things. "Seasoned executives, They knew when a meeting was over and when a takeover had backfired. "You can't do this," Nathaniel said, his voice cracking as he stepped forward. "Novawell has already announced the acquisition to their shareholders." I smiled. For real this time. "Actually, I can," and I did. I walked toward the door, then paused and turned back. "Oh, and about that consulting position you offered me?" I held his eyes. I declined. Behind me, the thud of his briefcase hitting the floor echoed through the hallway. My phone buzzed. A message from Dr. Ko. That was magnificent. But what now? I typed back, "Now? Now we show them exactly what they tried to steal." Because while Nathaniel was busy playing power games in polished boardrooms, I was changing the world. And I was just getting started. On the main screen, our most recent clinical trial results glowed with possibility. Data that could redefine cancer treatment. Data that belonged to me. My phone buzzed again. "Dad, this time, we need to talk." I let it go to voicemail. They'd had years to talk, years to listen, years to understand what I was building. Now they could wait while I finished what I started. Because sometimes the quietest person in the room isn't silent because they have nothing to say. They're silent because they're too busy changing the world to waste breath on people who never cared to listen. And I had a world to change. The next morning, Novawell Holdings stock opened down 15%. The headlines were relentless. Acquisition collapse at Novawell, patent oversight shakes shareholder confidence. Sorensen outmaneuvers corporate bit, biotech world watches in awe. I read them while reviewing cell images under the lab's microscope, the low hum of equipment grounding me. The intercom crackled. "Dr. Sorensen," Julia said, my research coordinator. "Your father's here again." I sighed. "Anything else?" She hesitated. "The National Immunology Authority just called. They want to fast-track our approval application." I smiled. I had sent the encrypted trial files to the NA myself at midnight. "How interesting," I said softly. "Tell my father he gets 10 minutes. He looked smaller, standing in my lab. The legendary Thomas Sorensen, venture capitalist and biotech kingmaker, now surrounded by machines he once called a waste of money. "The board at Novawell is calling for Nathaniel's resignation," he said bluntly. "Not my problem." "Delia, please, he's your brother." I carefully placed a glass slide beneath the lens. Was he my brother when he tried to steal my company? When he called my research a science fair project? I adjusted the focus, watching the cancer cells rupture and dissolve. He didn't understand, but more importantly, he didn't try to. "Dad said nothing. And neither did you," I added, not unkindly. "Everyone underestimated me. That was your mistake." I straightened and turned to him. "Do you know what you're looking at?" I gestured to the microscope. He shook his head. "This is the future of cancer treatment," I said. "Nanoparticles, coded to deliver chemotherapy directly to cancer cells. No damage to healthy tissue, no hair loss, no nausea, no suffering. 0 side effects, 94% efficacy in trial conditions." He blinked. "That's impossible." "No, Dad," I said gently, "that's science." I tapped my screen, projecting the full trial data across the lab monitor. "The NIA is expediting review. In 6 months, this treatment will be saving lives." My father stared at the screen. My God. And for the first time in my life, I think he actually saw me. If you believe in quiet strength, in fighting for what's right even when no one's watching, subscribe to the channel. Delia's story isn't over yet, and what comes next will leave them speechless. "Delia, your 10 minutes are up." I turned back to the microscope. "Julia will show you out." "Wait." My father reached into his briefcase, pulling out a folder. "Nathaniel asked me to give you this. It's a revised offer. From Novawell. Triple the original amount." I took the folder, glanced at the gold embossed logo, then fed it straight into the lab's paper shredder. "Tell Nathaniel he can keep his money," I said without a blink. "I have something better. I have results." After he left, I checked my phone. 3 missed calls from Nathaniel. 2 from my mother, and 1 from Dr. Ko. Swarm of vultures incoming. 5 new acquisition offers sat in my inbox. I typed back. Declined them all. We're staying independent. Because independence was what I'd fought for all along. The freedom to pursue truth, without interference, without ego, without family politics. My phone buzzed again, an unknown number. I answered cautiously. Dr. Sorensen, this is Dr. Sandra Collins with the NIA Review Board. My heart skipped. We've examined your trial data, she said. It's revolutionary. Thank you. We'd like to move forward with the fast-track program. Your therapy could be fully approved by the end of the year. I looked into the microscope again, at the targeted nanoparticles dissolving cancer cells with chilling precision. That would be acceptable, I said. There's one more thing, she added, voice lower. The Nobel Committee has requested your full research documentation. I sat down slowly. The Nobel Prize. Not for me, but for the lives we'd save. I'll have everything sent over by tonight. After the call ended, I walked to the tall glass window overlooking downtown Vancouver. From here, I could see the Nova Well building just a few blocks away. I wondered if Nathaniel was still up there, packing up the remnants of his ambition. In the reflection, I caught sight of my own face. Not the quiet girl they used to overlook, but Dr. Delia Sorensen, scientist, founder, and, apparently, contender for a Nobel. My phone buzzed again. The text from Nathaniel. You've ruined me. Happy now? I typed back. I didn't ruin you. Your arrogance did that. But don't worry, when we cure cancer, I'll make sure you get a discount. Because success isn't about proving others wrong. It's about proving yourself right. And I was about to prove something that could change the world. 6 months later, I stood at the podium of the National Institutes of Health press conference. Camera flashes lit the room as I announced the FDA's approval of our treatment. Behind me, a massive screen showed real-time imaging of cancer cells disintegrating. This isn't just a treatment, I said. I concluded my speech clearly, without fanfare. This is a revolution in oncology, and it's only the beginning. The questions came quickly. Dr. Sorensen, how does it feel to be the youngest scientist nominated for the Nobel Prize in Medicine? Will Halcyon Labs remain independent? Any comment on Novawell Holdings' recent bankruptcy filing? I answered each one with the same calm precision I'd developed in the lab. Measured, deliberate, grounded in evidence. But one question made me pause. Dear Dr. Sorensen, your brother Nathaniel was recently quoted saying this technology was stolen from him. Do you have a response? I smiled slightly. The public patent records speak for themselves. Now, if you'll excuse me, I have patients waiting. Back in my office, Julia was already there, holding a tablet. Our latest results just came in, she said. Survival rate is holding steady at 96%. It's unprecedented. Good, I replied, scrolling through the data. Start prepping the regulatory brief for our next trial. Already done, she said, then hesitated. Your mother's here. I looked up. Where? Reception. She's been sitting there all morning, watching the press conference. I sighed. Send her in. She hadn't changed much, still immaculately dressed, still the same composed posture, but something in her expression had shifted. She looked around my office, slowly, pausing at the framed patents, the international awards, the portrait of our founding team. I saw you on TV, she said softly. You were remarkable. Thank you. Nathaniel's not doing well, she said, almost like a confession. Your father's trying to find him a role at one of the holding firms. He's struggling. I know. She twisted her wedding ring, just like she used to when I was a kid and she was trying to mask discomfort. He never meant to hurt you. Yes, he did. I met her eyes. He meant to erase me, because none of you believed I could build anything worth keeping. She swallowed. We were wrong. She reached into her handbag and pulled out a worn photograph. Me, age 7, in oversized goggles, balancing beakers from my first chemistry set. You were always different, she whispered. So quiet, So curious. We should have seen what you were becoming. You saw what you wanted to see, I said gently. A girl who should have been more like her loud, charming brother. You never thought I had ambitions of my own. And now? She asked quietly. Now that you've proven us wrong? I turned to the window. Outside, cranes were breaking ground on Halcyon Labs' new global research campus. Now, I said, I'm going to cure more diseases, create more breakthroughs, save more lives. Without external pressure, without interference, I added, then softened slightly. But if you're genuinely interested in understanding what I do, the lab tours are every Thursday. She gave a quiet nod, understanding the olive branch for what it was. I'll be there. After she left, I made my way down to the lower level. My real home. My lab. On my desk sat a sealed envelope from the Nobel Committee, still unopened. But I didn't need their validation anymore. I had something far more powerful. Results. My phone buzzed. A message from Nathaniel. Congratulations, I was wrong. Then one from my father. You've changed the world, Delia. I'm sorry I didn't see it sooner. And finally, from Julia. Ready to start the next revolution? I picked up my lab coat and smiled, always. Because success isn't about patents or headlines or even proving people wrong. It's about changing the world while they're busy underestimating you. And I was just getting started. 1 year later, I stood at the podium in Stockholm accepting the Nobel Prize in Medicine. My family sat in the audience, not as critics, not as puppet masters, but as witnesses to what happens when you underestimate the quiet ones. In my speech, I didn't mention the attempted takeover, or the legal battles, or the family tension. Instead, I spoke about the patients, thousands of them, now living cancer-free because of our therapy. I spoke about what was coming next. Alzheimer's, autoimmune diseases, rare genetic disorders, and I spoke about the power of quiet determination. Sometimes, I concluded, the greatest breakthroughs come from the people you least expect, the ones working in silence while others are speaking over them, the ones changing the world while others are still planning how to take it. That night, I returned to my temporary lab in Stockholm. As I looked out the window, my reflection came into view. Nobel laureate, scientist, CEO, the quiet girl they once underestimated, who went on to change the world. My phone buzzed one last time, and a message from a young researcher on our team. Dr. Sorensen, I think we've found something promising in the Alzheimer's trials. I smiled and slipped on my lab coat, because this was never about proving them wrong. It was about proving what's possible when you stop listening to the noise of doubt and start listening to the quiet voice that says, discover, create, revolutionize. And I was still listening. If my story resonated with you, even just a little, I hope you'll take a moment to subscribe to this channel, not just for me, but for every quiet fighter out there who's building something the world doesn't see yet. Leave a comment below. Tell me what you would say to someone who underestimated you. Or tell me what you would say to your own younger self, the one who doubted, hesitated, or stayed silent when they should have stepped forward. I read every word. And here's what I've learned, the one thing I hope you'll take with you today. You don't need to be loud to be powerful. You don't need to be approved of to be right. And you don't need to fit the world's expectations to change it. Whether you're in a lab, a studio, a classroom, or your own kitchen table, you are allowed to dream radically, work quietly, and rise fully on your own terms. So stay focused, stay steady, let them talk. Because while they're busy doubting you, you just might be building the future.